Coast flight, you didn't have a book.
Yeah.
You were screwed.
Right.
You know, I mean, you might have your Walkman or your Discman at that point,
but no on-demand entertainment.
No, there was not
Coach.
6 different things to do, and that's just indicative of the entertainment, not just on an airplane, but now you take that to someone sitting at home.
Right.
You know, whereas reading may have been the 4th or 5th option. Now it's really
Even
not even
further
on
down.
the table. Some people are reading, but they're reading in different formats. You know,
Right.
reading a little bit online, where the attention span is about 1,000 words.
Right.
You know, where it's just a different feeling having a book in your hands. Like, you know, I mean, you can read 20,000 words at a time when you're reading a book. Some people will read more. Some people.
It's a lot easier to get lost in that
Yeah.
book than it is that device that you're reading.
Well, having had a Kindle, I don't have an iPad, but I had a Kindle for a while. I prefer the feel of a book.
There's just something about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's different in that.
You've accomplished something also when you've closed it.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It goes on your shelf.
And I also often wonder, why do I hold on to books after I've read them, knowing that I'm probably not going to read them again?
It's a trophy.
And it reminds you of that good time, you know, some time you share, you know, you had emotions you felt while you were reading it.
I'll give you an example. I read Have a Nice Day on a vacation with my sister
Yeah.
when it first came out, and I went back to go look at it knowing you were coming in here today. Couldn't find it. Remembered I gave it to a friend of mine as a gift, and I was like, and I really wish I had that. And I
Re-gifted.
I re-gifted it, which I'm sure your publishers weren't happy about. But that does it. I remembered that whole story of reading that and being into use, and that's you don't get that with a digital copy of something. I don't think.
No. And no, not at all. And
Yeah.
it's, you know, the handwritten letter is still something you go back and, you know, from 20 years ago somebody wrote you a letter, whereas if it had been an email,
Right.
you know, it just doesn't seem to have that, you know, type of relevance. Another issue is that in '99 when I came out with Have a Nice Day, I didn't get backlash from the older wrestlers, but it was kind of revolutionary, and it was the first big product that told the truth about a lot of things.
Right.
You know, this is, I mean, even a great guy like Arn wrote a book called,
It was a total war. I read that. It was insulting.
It was like they really had beaten up Dusty.
When Eric Watts jumped me in the gas station and hooked me in the STF.
And you just couldn't come from that background. You couldn't talk about certain things.
Yeah.
I was the first one who was able to do it, and I did it with the idea of being fans are going to respect the business more than they did starting out.
Well, and plus, you had several different characters. Your history would be documented on TV. They've gone back and shown the pictures of you as a kid. So, in a way, you were much more accessible to talk about the history in sort of the behind the curtain, but still living in sort of a character.
And I'm still a good source for honest assessments. One of the differences is you can go on the internet and get 150 honest assessments from wrestlers. Like guys there's shoot interviews everywhere. You know, there's books out. I mean,
they're tweeting all the time.
Yeah. I mean, guys are sharing their feelings in a way that they never would have and didn't have an avenue to do 11 years ago. So I mean, it's a different world.
And let's be honest. At the end of the day, we all know it's a work. Okay, there's 15% of the audience, maybe not counting kids, that don't know it's a work. And I might be generous.
Definitely.
But we know it is. But it's like going to a movie. Okay, I know that I'm watching a movie. That doesn't mean I want to see the boom mic or have Michael Bay walk out in the front of the Transformer and go, "Hey, sucker, thanks for your money."
I know Sly Stallone's not really shooting that gun, and not really killing those people in Asia.
I want to suspend my disbelief and be taken on a ride.
That's the key,
and that's all it is. And I think that, frankly, the legacy of the book, to a large extent, other than creating a sort of sub-business in and of itself, which everywhere, it's hilarious, the number of guys. The Brickhouse Brown story is coming, Hardbody Harrison, the memoir.
And but for a lot of the guys, it is a great way of having closure on a career. You know, there was, I mean, for a couple dozen guys, you know, made some money on their books.
I mean, I look at Bret Hart's book. That was important for him to tell. And you could tell in the book and reading it that this was an important thing, for his legacy, for his family, for him to just have this say. And I think, in a way, allowed him to sort of come back at peace with it all.
Definitely.
And not be a sort of the broken down, bitter person, but sort of going, you know what, I've said my piece, I want to move on with my life.
And it was Bret and Jericho who discovered the secret. It's a secret, and I talk about this. I was flattered Jericho had me write the foreword to his book, which is kind of a gutsy, ballsy move, given that, you know, I mean, it would be the easier thing and more politically correct thing to ask somebody. And there's a lot of great guys in WWE, and here he's, you know, asking me was really flattering. And I compared writing his foreword to like that old timer who's asked to come out to the stadium to watch somebody else break their record.
Yeah.
You know? I said, really enjoy this book. At the end, I was like, I'll be over here waving from the sidelines, pretending to be happy. And I mentioned that so many wrestlers have great stories to tell, but I was the first one to understand that if you really put the time into it, you could tell that story much better, even if you were, grammatically challenged.
And craft it, really. That's the one thing I'll say about your book. It wasn't just, we went to this place at this hotel and did this. It was well-crafted, beginning, middle, and end stories.
That was by accident. It fell into place. Even the idea being that when I started writing it, the ghostwriter had written the first half of the book. And I said, geez, well, I had given him what I thought was a nice hook at the beginning about losing the ear in Germany.
Right.
And he didn't get it. I realized that he would never know what it was like to be caught in those ropes and think you were literally going to be suffocated and die unless you squeezed out. And when I did, the ear came with it. He couldn't capture that. So when I went up to the top deck of the Tallahassee Civic Center, it was with the pen and notebook. I was going to write the introduction, and then, or the first chapter, the hook. Then when I saw the guys, X-Pac was one of them, Stone Cold was another, where, they gathered around. At first there was a couple people. You guys want to hear what I wrote? And when I got that feedback, the laughter and kind of the cringing
reaction,
it was like, wow, this is like being a wrestler except not getting hurt. And in Austin, this is before I got grandfathered in to the first class by being the champion. I didn't even know what an F fare was until I got one in '99. I was like, what the hell is this? It's an F fare.
Steerage?
Somebody told me it was first class. I was like, perhaps there's been some type of mistake. And they said, no, you're the champion. You fly first. And then after I lost the belt, 6 weeks later, I was like, what's going on?
Do I still get this?
They just kept giving it to me. I guess that was like a gesture of respect. They said, sometimes the champions are kind of grandfathered in. That once you've been, I don't know if that's an official rule or not, but Steve was up there, and at that time he'd gotten first class for himself, and he'd be like, hey kid, you got any more of that book I can read? And he would read the notebook paper, and I'd look up there, and Steve, his back would be shaking, he was like one of my biggest, fans, fans of the book, and I went back, and I said, okay, I'm going to write the second half of that book. So I actually wrote from 1988 or 89 on. And then when I realized, I was several thousand words into that when I realized, all right, I'm going to have to go back and start it.
Right.
And so that is the reason. They asked for 60,000 words, and I was up to 100,000, and I was only halfway done. And that's the sole reason why my book begins. Outside the introduction, my book begins with the sentence, I turned 18 in the fall. I was 18 years old in the fall of '83 because I was like, I can't start. I can't start from the beginning, and that I was probably fortunate because that spared me the Kevin Costner, Wyatt Earp, narration. That I was already kind of at that age where I was where I was capable of coming of age.
But also, I think you transitioned to a different medium of storytelling, which sort of proved that guys could do it, and guys like Jericho and Brecca could go and tell their story and not have to worry about
they ruined secret. Anyone can do it. Oh, I don't want to curse it here.
But smart, good.
Damn you, Jericho.
You're fine.
But smart, good storytelling transcends.
Yeah.
And transcends to other medium. And this is something you have transcended into wrestling icon to pop culture icon. My fiance knows who Mick Foley is.
Chef Boyardee salesman.
Exactly.
They want you to write a foreword to one of these graphic novels coming up here. Don't think the minute you get done, you're not getting grabbed by Philip.
All right, this is where this is going to become controversial. This is where I really air my grievances currently with TNA.
Please.
I'll give a lot of credit to the pop culture thing, to WWE for taking advantage of the opportunities.
Yeah.
That if, I didn't realize when it came out in '99 that how big a deal it was to get, the Today Show came in 2001, but to get national television, and to get big shows, and to be on, and to realize the importance of putting that package together to show our fans, first of all, it has to start with our fans.
Right.
Show them why we matter, and then the other people will catch on. But you have to deal with your fans, keep them there, show your fans why we matter. And this is, I mean, I'm beating myself up, and it's frustrating because I can't seem to get the decision makers at TNA to understand that it is a big deal to show me in front of 250,000 fans at the Jon Stewart rally.
And to show the reaction from the crowd.
To not utilize the Jon Stewart rally is a great example, because that is a, whether you agree with it, disagree with it, that was a cultural touchstone moment.
Yes.
And the fact is, you can't buy that kind of publicity. We did this with the Comic-Con party as well, where you got a Nikki Fink, which in our industry at that time particularly was a big deal, and to be put over, might add, as the highlight of the parties of the night, the Machine Guns match. Okay? Yeah. You've got to follow up on that stuff. And in the case of that rally, that is, like I said, that's a cultural touchstone that hits so many audiences that, let's be very honest, in a Q rating sense, don't know that there's another wrestling league outside of WWE.
But, and even to your point, though, the people who have sampled TNA or watched TNA on a regular basis, they're going to see you up there or see it on TNA and go, you know what, this is why I watch it, because there is that, this likability, there's this,
honestly, I've got to fight the perception that I'm a washed-up 45-year-old guy who can't do the things he does.
He was known for. Yeah.
That's one side of the story. The other side is, look, well, this guy's still relevant. Maybe the book's not selling that well, but I'm talking about issues that matter on the Daily Show.
Right.
Is there any other wrestler not named Dwayne promoting a movie that's getting these breaks?
John Cena gets great publicity.
But let's be honest, John's thing is a bit more about the machine, because we try. I love John. We get on quite well. But we've tried. I was at New Line. I tried to do a buddy thing with basically their money talks with him and D. Ray Davis, which would have worked at 15 or 20. Would have worked. Yeah. I still think they should do that, frankly. But a lot of that stuff is their machine procuring that. Yeah. You are at a point culturally where people do, and there's an affection, I think, I see it with women, particularly in this space, where you are non-threatening to them in a way.
By the way, that's Christy Canyon's secret with the female audience, is that she may be sexy to the men.
She's maternal.
And she's not breathy.
Right.
That she's not threatening.
It's not an aggressive.
She's not blonde, bleach blonde hair, gigantic fake breasts.
Tattoos.
So Christy and I have that mutual thing where we're non-threatening.
She's the Marissa Tomei.
Well, and to that point, the females that have worked with you have always sort of been non-threatened by you as well, right? I heard you talk about that before.
Yeah, I remember Trish Stratus referring to me as the safety valve. I was saying, well, I know I can come over and talk with you. You're not going to hit on me. You're not going to say anything. I said, really? I am hitting on you. You're just not doing it very well.
Have you seen it all, by the way, going back to the book a little bit, piracy at all? Have you looked into this? Have you seen how badly you've been hit? Do you go on and ever look at how many Have a Nice Day torrents are out there you're losing royalties on?
I didn't even know that existed.
Absolutely.
Especially with the audio, because that's such an easy file to go and put out there. It's a big deal in books.
I'll take you a step further, and I'll get in trouble for this probably with fans watching, but online piracy of pay-per-views is a gigantic.
Is it really? I've known when the cable box piracy was big.
Black boxes. That's the modern black box. Use your water. Use your water. Where do you get the water?
I don't know.
Everybody's seen Mick's water.
Oh, there it is. I found it.
But, and again, you're always going to... I love this. It says the guy who has a hard drive of wrestling. Space Kicker, I owned that, and I ripped my own DVDs, and I'm not posting them on BitTorrent. But ultimately, these are issues, and they hit every one of our businesses. And I do think it's one of the reasons why, frankly... if I'm TNA as an example, and I need wrestling fans know you exist, okay? Right. You have got a floor and probably a ceiling number you're going to do.
Right.
I, frankly, if I were them, would cut pay-per-views in the effort to make them count.
Down to 4.
Yes.
4 or 5.
Ain't the early WWE model, and make them all different and make them count.
Yeah.
And then do Clash of the Champions.
Do Clash of the Champions on a Saturday night where you're putting on these great matches to people who
and Spike would. I thought for a while Spike was going to bite at that. It just the turnover as far as characters goes.
Yeah.
I'm saying a guy, I'm not necessarily a person, but a character has such a short shelf life that you have to constantly be tweaking or people get tired in a hurry. And I maybe learned this lesson the hard way where, I've been accused of jumping from babyface to heel a little too often. And I was doing at the time what I thought was best for the story involved.
Right.
I went back at the end of this book and I asked, would anything have been different at all if I'd just gone out there like I originally planned and said to Sting, brother, I respect you. When I get in that ring, there's only one way I know how to wrestle. No, it wouldn't have changed at all.
Right.
While I was doing it, it was fun to bring out that other side. but I think I was hurting my long-term credibility by trying to be something fans didn't want to see me as.
You were at the point where it's even like Flair. They boo Flair, but they're not really booing.